Well, hello. I'm going to show you how to do the start of making our Pippa pouch. Very similar to this. This will be the shape that we'll be making, but the Pippa pouch was made in a single fabric. This, however, is made with strips of fabric for the braid technique. So I wanted to show you before we did the actual demonstration of making the Pippa pouch, how to make the braid ready to make our finished project. So what we will need many strips like this, all different. You can do it from scraps, but these are from the beautiful Lighthouse range from Edita Sitar, and to give the look of the pouch I just showed you. So, and what we're going to make is this. Now this is the strip. It is slightly smaller, but this is what it's going to look like. So where do we start? Well, if you have a look closely here, you'll see there's a little triangle down here. So that is our starting point. So we will take our piece of wadding by the measurements that are needed for this particular sized pouch, and we will draw a line along its length halfway across. So whatever the width of your wadding, you'll need to draw a line down the centre. Now for this, you don't have to do this, but I've decided, so that it's a quilted pouch, I have put some fabric on the back already, so that as I stitch, I'm going to be quilting through that backing fabric as well. So I have used a little bit of 505 spray to hold the wadding to the fabric, and that will stop it from shifting. So we will start at one short end, and we will take a little triangle. I've just randomly cut this piece, and we're going to put it right at the bottom in the centre, so that the point is on that line. Now just for to hold it in place, I'm not going to be using pins much at all, but I'm going to put a pin there just to hold that triangle in place. And then I'm randomly going to pick a piece of fabric, which happens to be this one, and I'm going to lay it. So I'm going to put it where I go. And just to say, the technique, if you think about it each time, is we are adding a strip on one side and then the opposite, so alternating from one side to the other each time we add a strip. So if we place one next to where it's going to go and then flip it right sides together, and we're lining up that short edge on that point as well, and then lining these raw edges up. Now you don't actually, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch, but if your 1/4 inch seam is not quite a 1/4 inch, it really doesn't matter. So I've stitched down that side, and then I'm going to flip it open, and then I'm going to snip off fairly level to that short edge there. And as I said, because we've popped a strip on that side, I'm now going to put one on the other side. Now, similarly with the fabric strips, they don't have to be exactly the same width. They can be different. Now, I'm lining up that short edge with that edge there and lining it down here. Now, because my foot is actually a 1/4 inch wide, I can stitch like this, so I don't need to turn it around. But the next side I do, I will show you what you probably would do yourselves. So I'm then going to flip that back. I'm just going to finger press along that seam and then just trim that little bit off too. Now I'm going to pick another piece, and as I say, randomly, so again, right sides together, line that top edge up and stitch down to the edge. Flip it back and nail press, finger press, and we are growing. So I'm now going to take another strip, and again it's going to go on the opposite side, right sides together. Now really, this point should be roughly in line with that point there. Now what I would do if I have a 1/4 inch foot on is I would swivel this around, and then I would go from the bottom edge, just make sure that's all lined up. So I'm lining those raw edges there, and I'm just going to stitch to the end of that strip, and then swivel it back round again, open it out, finger press and clip off. And then we will take another strip. Let's have a look, see what we have now. And again, that's going to go on the opposite side. So right sides together, line up that short edge with the opposite side. Under we go. And stitch all the way down. And fold it back, finger press, nail press, trim. There we go. Next one along. Let's do a blue. I'm being random, but I'm not being random. So all these fabrics fit together beautifully. So let's just pop that one on there, line that up, and as I say, we will go straight down that edge too. So it's quite a repetitive technique, but it does actually, take our next strip, it does actually grow very, very quickly. So line that edge up, line those up, and as long as you're covering both sides, even though it may not be lined up absolutely accurately, this is not a technique which needs complete accuracy. So let's have a look for another one. So we have a strip here, and you can see I am being random, but not I'm trying to spread my colours, but you could actually do this in just 2 colours, flipping from one side to the other, or probably 4 colours would be good, so that you could have 2 on one side and 2 on the other side, so that you're alternating. So let's have a darker one here. Let's pop that over to there, line those edges up under our foot and straight down that side. There we are. So we're not actually using that much fabric as we go, but what I would do, I wouldn't throw these bits away, because you never know what you might want to use them for next. So again, right sides together and flip down there and fold it back. So trim up that side. We will be, I'll take that pin out now, we will be trimming this to the actual shape of the pouch. So, you know, if around the edges it's not absolutely perfect, it doesn't matter, because some of this will be trimmed away anyway. So I think you get the hang of this now. It's very, very therapeutic. Let's put a dark one on the other side. Let's have this one here. So right sides together, line those outer edges and stitch down. But as I say, don't worry about being an accurate 1/4 inch. That doesn't matter too much. But always, always flip your fabric back. Let's have one of those red ones there now. Flip the fabric back before you trim the excess away. So flip it back, and you can see my line, my center line has gone a little bit off, and that's probably because the first little triangle was not an absolute perfect triangle. It wasn't a half square triangle, so it might be better to start off with a triangle, or a square rather, and cut the square in half, and you've got a perfect half square triangle then to follow with your strips. So what I might do on this one, just to change it a little bit, if I angle that a little bit so that I bring that in just a bit. So this is how you would, any little, say, deviations, how you can change it just that little bit or bring it back to how it should be. So next one, let's have a light blue here. So this time, as I say, I am finger pressing that down there. So if when I put this down, I'm just going to put it a little bit angled. You don't have to. If I'd started off with the half square triangle, as I say, it wouldn't have veered off. So let's pop that down there. It's trying to bring that back towards the normal shape, or so that this point comes up the middle. I should perhaps angle this a little bit more on this one, so my edges aren't perfectly aligned. But as I say, this can be a scrappy, and which is what I have done with those others. But you can see how that point, it's sort of coming back into line with the rest. So here's another one here. So let's just line that. So I've angled it slightly. As I say, what it's doing then is going to bring my points where the different fabrics come together, it is going to bring them back so they're pointing towards that line. So next one, please. Let's have a dark blue again. And as I say, you can see how, I'm bringing that one down a little bit as well. You can see how all these colours just work beautifully together. So pop that, finger press, nail press it down, and next strip here, and that's right sides together. Slip down that line, and you can see how quickly these strips are covering our wadding. Click that there. Let's have a little bit of light blue on this side. Line that up. And the thing is that you would see, had I had that right angled triangle, I would have had a similar length of strip on both sides, but the strips I've been using are that little bit longer. So let's put a little dark one on this side. I've nail pressed there, line those up, and stitch down there, and finger press that back. You can see on this side the strips are slightly shorter. Let's have a bluey one, and stitch down that side and flip that back, trim it off, and oh, we can have a nice, oh no, we've used that one. Let's have a pale creamy one. We'll line that up, and you can see there I'm getting that point back towards that centre line that I drew. So again, flip that and trim. And next one, let's have a beigey, which we haven't used this. This is the mustard gold, which, whoops, don't go so fast, Trisha. There we go. And flip that back and press, and let's have a blue on this other side. Let's nail press that down, blue there, and you see my point is right back to where it should have been the whole way along. Oops, let's just make sure that's lined up there now. And just stitch down here, flip it back, and in a moment we can just be going along the same side. So let's put a red one here, line that up. Down we go. All we need to do is make sure that our seams are actually attached, or the fabric is actually overlapping, so that we're getting those pieces covered. Okay, so, oh no, we won't have that blue again. Let's have that creamy with the red stargazing fabric there. It reminds me of all those, what do we call them? All those different ones, the bear, the stargazer, all of those. So let's trim that off there. And now what we can do at this point is just go down one side. Let's just see. As long as we have enough of our fabric left, which I know we will have. So finger press that down, trim away, and we could have, let's have a little bit of blue on here. So I'm now just finishing off this corner, so we're not bothering to flip it from one side to the other, purely because there's only one corner that needs finishing. So as long as they come one after the other, and whatever colours that you particularly like, as long as it's close enough to the edge, it means when it flips back, it's going to cover. So we're going to need one more little bit to cover there. I mean, it may be when the template is popped on there, it won't actually, it'll actually be trimmed off, but I've got a little bit that I had left from earlier, from one of the other strips, so why not just use that? So when we started off with one long strip, that is why. So let's have a look. What I could do at this point is flip that round so that I'm just working on this side, and let's have a look. We can have this, probably my favourite fabric in this range, which is like a jade with those beautiful flowers. Okay. So flip that back, trim it off, and I imagine we now have got perhaps two more just to finish. So what am I'm going to use that little bit there, because I think that is going to cover that area very nicely. Waste not, want not. Flip that over, and we can have one tiny bit, which we perhaps don't even need to cover that, but I am going to do a slightly wider line. There we go. So there is our piece completely covered, and if we turn it to the back, what you'll see is that we have it quilted. So all I need to do where I've been cutting off is just to trim those little bits of thread. This is going to be the inside of our pouch, so it's not a problem, and because the seams will overlap, it's not going to fall apart. So I look forward to seeing you a little bit later on when we will be actually constructing. So there it is. We will be constructing our little pouch, the Pippa pouch, with that method. So I will see you later on. Bye for now.